Okay. This is Jeff Cadillac. I'm NFL handicapper and analyst, and I'm along with Fago Franklin, reporter for Pro Players Insiders, and we're reviewing the NFL Draft 2020. It's Sunday, April 26th, and the NFL Draft is over. And, the draft itself kind of went not too bad for a virtual draft. They might, who knows, they might do this again sometime. What do you think, Fago?
I think went pretty smoothly. There wasn't really no errors. I do like the fan interaction. That was pretty awesome. And then the celebrations, of course, with the NFL draftees celebrating getting drafted. That was pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, I thought the virtual aspect of the draft went off not too shabby. There were times when you could tell that Roger Goodell was a little, on edge, you might say, in his basement doing this whole draft and everything. But otherwise, I think it went off with not too much of a hitch. But let's get right into this. What was like the first surprise that you kind of saw? Any surprises that you might have seen in this NFL draft that you weren't expecting?
Oh man, Jalen Hurts. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, and I expected us to get a linebacker first, or maybe a safety, someone to help out in the secondary. But we end up getting Jalen Hurts. So what are you actually telling Carson Wentz? Is that a security blanket just in case Carson Wentz does get injured again? Because for the last 2 years, Carson Wentz has been injured. So bring in Jalen Hurts. Are you going to tell him that we're going to build a package around him? Is he going to be molded into a great quarterback? Is Carson going to be that veteran quarterback that's going to mold him? So that was like one of the biggest shocks. I think we should have went after someone on the defensive side of the ball, but it's a give and take. If Carson goes down, we actually have a decent quarterback that could actually take us to the playoffs.
Well, I got to agree with you there because I was kind of surprised about the Jalen Hurts pick. I definitely thought the first pick that Philly would go was with a wide receiver. They did pick a wide receiver after that, but the Jalen Hurts pick definitely probably sent shockwaves through the Philly fans because here you have Carson Wentz signed for $100 million, and now you're bringing in another quarterback very shortly right after you just signed them. So I'm thinking that maybe the brain trust of Philly doesn't have as much confidence in Carson Wentz's health as they did before because the last few seasons, I mean, look, who won the Super Bowl for Philly? It wasn't Carson Wentz, it was Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically talking about, uh, a very, this guy is more than just a backup. You draft a backup fourth, fifth round, sixth round, maybe, third round, maybe, but not this high up in the draft. I was kind of very shocked about that. And I definitely agree with you there. And then Green Bay. I mean, what are they doing taking Jordan Love in the first round? To me, what was that all about? What kind of message are you sending to Rodgers? What are you doing here when he could have definitely also used another wide receiver, another running back, maybe an offensive lineman, first off the bat. Um, this is something that shocked me and a lot of other people as well. I think the pick here, I don't know, it could be a wasted pick. Maybe they're going to use it as a trade bait to somebody. What do you think?
Oh man, that was a wild pick in itself. Because at first, again, they needed to fill in that tight end position. Because one of their tight ends, he ended up going to the Bears. Can't think of the name off the top of my head for the time being. But nevertheless, the message that they sent in uh, uh, Aaron Rodgers is basically, hey, we understand that you're our quarterback for right now for the next 3 years, but we got to look at the longevity of our quarterback situation because Aaron Rodgers is getting a little bit older in age. He can't take that many hits. And then, of course, as you saw in the playoffs this year, um, he didn't look like that superb quarterback that we are accustomed to seeing. So bringing in this guy, I think it's sending a spark up Aaron Rodgers' tail to actually do better, and then also to mold this young quarterback into the best quarterback that he could possibly be.
Well, it definitely. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be pressured too much by Jordan Love. I really don't think so. Because a few years ago they drafted that quarterback Hundley out of UCLA, and he didn't really amount to much. And he was like a second round draft choice in that, or even a high draft choice. I might be mistaken on that. But that guy was touted as being a big-time quarterback, and it never really materialized. And drafting Jordan Love here, look, Aaron Rodgers went through the same kind of thing with Brett Favre, but
Mhm.
Aaron Rodgers, to me, is better than Brett Favre. I don't see there any pressure as long as Rodgers stays healthy and keeps on winning. He's going to keep that job forever. And Jordan Love may be needed as somebody they could see down the road trading
Mhm.
away for a possible lineman, wide receiver, somebody, and maybe even a draft choice on top of it, because this guy was very, heavily touted out of Utah State. Um, another team you mentioned before about Chicago, they had 9 tight ends on the roster, and they drafted another. Their first pick, they drafted Cole Kmet in the second round out of Notre Dame. I mean, Chicago could use a lot of guys, in different positions. They could use an extra running back. They could certainly use another wide receiver, maybe another lineman. Why draft another tight end? You already got 9 on the roster. I mean, how many are you going to keep going into, say the season? That I find that, is a wasted pick again by Chicago. You know, do you
I,
agree?
I I understand where you're coming from because I said the same exact thing. You just went after another tight end, and you're going to get you going to draft another tight end. I don't think they actually found somebody that was like a key factor. So that's why they probably drafted, another tight end because they're looking for something. And all the other guys that they have drafted within that position, they haven't really found anything that's a key factor that somebody that's going to be a game changer. So I understand where they're coming from, but you got training camp, so those guys will be weeded out through training camp.
I think the tight end coach for Chicago has definitely got his hand. He's got the best of all worlds there because now he has 10 tight ends that he could work with, and he could look for the best 3 and unload the rest. And if he does see somebody who might be a sleeper, Chicago could trade him for somebody because
Hmm.
believe me, Chicago could use all the help they can get.
Hmm.
Excuse me. Their quarterback situation is still up in the air. Trubisky or Foles, I'm not settled in on that as well. And Khalil Mack also had sort of like a down year for Khalil Mack numbers. So, I'd like to see him bounce back as well and maybe take some of the pressure off the rest of the, defensive line. But I definitely was kind of shocked about that pick. New England went through the whole draft without drafting a quarterback. Now, unless they feel confident about Jared Stidham, uh, going into the season, or maybe they have something that up their sleeve as usual. I don't know. Everybody's thinking, oh, Belichick's this, that. I don't know. I'm only going on what I see right now. And going into the season, this guy better turn into Superman between now and if there is a regular season.
I kind of agree with you to a certain extent, but I think this is the year where they just kind of relax and see what happens. And then in the next draft, they're going to probably go after the Clemson quarterback, Lawrence Teller. Um,
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence. He's a phenomenal guy. He actually fits in with that system. He's a pocket quarterback. So that's what I think that they're trying to do.
So you
So
think New England might do a dump this year like Miami did this past year to try to get that first pick?
I could see it happening, but in their division, everybody's rebuilding. So they can still come on top within that division. That's one of the weakest divisions in the NFL.
Yeah, the Jets basically have a prove it, and they're always in prove it mode. We know
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo is still doing well, and they should have beat Houston in the playoffs, but that division is definitely up for grabs. I'm not giving it to anybody just yet because New England's defense is very good, and they can surprise people at any time, and an interception, a turnover could change the game in 2 seconds. So but they did draft 2 tight ends, so they're looking at maybe this year is going to be one of those years for New England where it's a heavy run game as compared to a passing game.
Mm-hmm.
um, the New England Patriots have been very well known for that 2 tight end set, and you don't know which side of the ball, which side of the field they're thrown to or they're running, and they have very capable running backs, and they're very, they have very good depth at that. So, any other surprises you might have seen in this NFL draft that I didn't mention so far?
CD Lamb going to Dallas. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand why he was on the board for that long. I thought, potentially, maybe the Cardinals was going to give him, or either Denver, because Denver ended up getting what's his name? What's his name?
Eh,
Jerry Judy.
Yes, Denver did pick up Jerry Judy. Henry Ruggs went to Oakland. C.D.
Mm-hmm.
Lamb fell down to
Dallas.
Dallas, and Justin
Dallas.
Jefferson went to Minnesota.
Yep. And so that's going to be a great division to watch because, of course, you got the Eagles and they're picking up a lot of wide receivers. We ended up trading to get somebody from the 49ers, which was definitely something that we needed to have. But you have Amari Cooper, C.D. Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, and Dak Prescott coming off one of his best seasons. Oh my gosh, they should do some. They should do something big this year, and there should be no excuses without them getting into the playoffs. No
Deep into the
excuses.
playoffs, deep into the playoffs, because now you have Mike McCarthy, not Jason Garrett, who always seems to befuddled by certain aspects, of the game. Uh, he just doesn't. I didn't think he'd get it, and sometimes I think they missed the right, the plays that they should have played. They didn't play, but we'll see what happens with Dallas. But I still think it was a good pick for them. Houston, after that debacle, that's everybody calling, trading DeAndre Hopkins, and they didn't draft any real impact players here. They didn't really draft people that they had a need for. And then they gave Laramie Tunsil a humongous contract that was $4 million per year over any other offensive tackle. And I think they're basically setting themselves up for a big fall this season. I don't see them really doing a lot of things. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of question marks, and they really took a step back from last season and going to the division playoffs against Kansas City. I think this is maybe the year that Bill O'Brien finally gets the axe, especially after the moves that he's made. Nothing really, big in the draft. They didn't have a pick to the second round, and I don't see anything happening there. Um, that's like a carry on from the offseason, and now carries on into the draft. Um, any other things you see that you were surprised about, Fago?
Oh, especially, well, it has nothing to do with the NFL draft, but picking up Jamison Winston uh, for the Saints, and you just re-signed Taysom Hill. Like, what are you actually doing with your quarterback? Is they going to do the same thing that they did with Teddy Bridgewater? Because the Saints are known to get quarterbacks and give them a second opportunity to mold them into the best quarterback that they could possibly be. Do you honestly think that he would have like a great shot and a great opportunity to actually get on the field this year?
Well, maybe they're thinking that because last year Teddy Bridgewater got his shot because Breeze went down with injury, so it was lucky for Teddy that he was able to do what he did. He had
Mm-hmm.
a nice record in the short time that he played. It was like 6 7 weeks. Didn't lose a game. I think he lost maybe one game at the most. I'm not, if I'm mistaken. But maybe they think Breeze is not going to last the whole season. And if Jameis Winston gets his shot and he comes in and he really learns and shows everybody that he can learn another system, then maybe he's got another shot at starting in this league. Because otherwise, with New Orleans, we all know he's going to be the backup. Taysom is like the X factor.
Mm-hmm.
So Jameis, as of this moment on Sunday, April 26th, it's not finalized, but they are in talks. So it's more leaning towards, him going to New Orleans. So we'll see what happens there. And who knows? If Breeze goes down for a number of games, Jameis better be ready like Teddy was. Otherwise, New Orleans isn't going anywhere this year.
I don't know because they still have a lot of firepower. And I feel like they're just competing with Tampa Bay because we know that the Panthers, they're rebuilding with Teddy Bridgewater getting another head coach. So I don't expect them to, do too much in the regular season. I could see them going 8-8. Um, but with the other three teams, it's going to be like a 10-6 team. It's going to be a race for the playoffs in that division. So, like I said, I think what the Saints doing is basically telling Tampa Bay, "Hey, we got your number. We got more players than you. If one of our players go down, we still got another player that can, potentially get us over the hump. What do you
Hmm.
have? If Tom Brady goes down, who do you have?" So I expect, Tampa Bay to potentially laugh at that and try to go after Cam Newton just for more so of a backup plan.
Well, they do. They definitely could use a backup player because Tom Brady is 43, not 33.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
a lot of eyes are going to be on there. The protection for Tom Brady on the offensive line is going to be looked at, especially. So they're going to, Tampa Bay is definitely looking for players that could help Tom Brady along in this season. That they're hoping that they, make it to a deep run into the playoffs.
Hmm.
So okay, I guess that's we'll wrap it up on that note. And I want to thank my guest, Fago Franklin, reporter for Pro Players Insiders. And I'm Jeff Cadillac, your NFL analyst and handicapper for Sunday, April 26th. And we recap the NFL Draft 2020. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you.